Hi, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me back in my craft room. Welcome to the Debbie J and Neha's birthday celebration hop. We're so excited to be celebrating some of our crafty friends' November birthdays. Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner and Neha from Crescent Creations have teamed up to put together today's hop, showcasing lots of birthday themed projects to inspire you to create some of your own and share with your friends and family. So we really hope that you find some amazing inspiration on this hop. You'll need to make sure you comment on everyone's video on this hop for a chance to win some of the prizes. I hope you saw that slide there of all the amazing sponsors for this hop. I'm going to jump right into my card because I don't want to keep you too long. There are a lot of amazing crafters. So I have already die cut my slimline connected rectangle out of some red sparkle cardstock. I also use that same die to cut a couple background scenes from Whimsy Stamps to really cool Christmas paper. And I've stamped and colored my little Tweety Pie birds. I tried to color them like robins, and I absolutely love how they turned out. And I went ahead and fussy cut all of my images. So right now we're jumping into where I am creating the center part of my card. I'm going to be creating my birthday sentiment. At first, I was just going to stamp my sentiment onto this white paper and then add some color with my Distress Oxides, but I wasn't really feeling it. I wanted to tie in more of the green that's on my card. So as you can see, my little birds have scarves and hats and earmuffs that have green. So I thought I would switch gears a little, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on one of my quick strip dies. It's a little banner die, and it's a little bit larger than my sentiment, but I'm going to make it work. And I'm already liking that there is kind of a breakup in my sentiment. So happy birthday will be on the banner, and then the little Tweety Pie sentiment will be stamped directly onto that background. So once I'm finally happy with how it's going to be laid out, I'm going to grab some green cardstock, and I'm just going to die cut that banner out of a matching green color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of paper and die cut it out. Now, like I said, the banner is larger than my sentiment, so I can just line that banner right back up so it meets the same cut on the top and bottom, and then it will just cut another little banner cut on the side. And there I have a shortened banner. I'm going to do some embossing, so I'm going to grab my clear block and I'm going to line up my happy birthday sentiment as best I can. They are two separate pieces because this stamp set has a lot of different combinations you can make to create a sentiment. And then I'm going to get out my embossing embossing powder tool, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment happy birthday on that banner. I'm going to use my grid mat to help me make sure it's nice and centered. I'd like to keep things as even as possible. And once that is stamped, I'll get out my white embossing powder. It's an ultra fine embossing powder, which is my favorite to use, especially for sentiments, so I can make sure I can read what it says. I'm going to go ahead and cover that completely, and then I will pour that back into my little container, and I will use my embossing heat tool to melt that embossing powder down. Once the sentiment is cooled, I just grab a little swiffer cloth, and that helps me wipe up any excess of that anti-static powder from my little embossing tool previously. Now I'm really liking my sentiment. I like that my bird has something to stand on. So then I lined up my little music notes that my bird's going to be tweeting, and then the sentiment Tweety Pie, so that way it will fit nicely onto that little background piece as well as the top and bottom of my banner. So just using my banner as a guide on my background, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my next set of stamps. And I'm going to repeat that process of using my white embossing powder and then my heat tool to melt the embossing powder down. So once that sentiment is all cooled down as well, I'm going to grab out some Distress Oxides. I'm going to use Peacock Feathers and Salvage Patina just to create an ombre look on this background. My other two background pieces are darker in the bottom for the snowy banks and then lighter on top for the night sky. So I'm just trying to replicate that look. So starting with Peacock Feathers at the bottom of my paper and then Salvage Patina at the top. And then I will just blend in between those two colors until I'm happy with that ombre look. And I went ahead and distressed on top of my embossing powder, and that's just going to give me an emboss resist look with my sentiment. I could have waited until my background was dry and embossed later, but I thought this would be faster, and I'm an impatient crafter and I want to keep going, so this was fine. I'm using a paper towel just to wipe off that excess ink, and there is my background for my middle panel, and I just think it's so pretty. I love these two colors together. They're so gorgeous, especially partnered with that bright red and that more kind of pear green. It's not olive and it's not bright. It's more of a pear green. I cut a card base out of some craft cardstock. Once it's folded, it is 3.5 by 8.5. I'm going to pop up my rectangle die. Now the die itself is exactly 1/8 of an inch thick, and I'm using 1/8 of an inch thick foam strips. So I had to be very careful when lining it up on the back of my die cut. And there's some areas where you can kind of see it, but honestly, it looks fine. You can't tell. So I am making sure that it's going to line up nicely on my background. And then before I attach down the rectangle frame die cut, I'm going to glue in each of my panels. So I'm just using it as a guide to glue in my left panel. As you can see, I put the frame down, glued the inside panel, and then pulled that frame up so that way I can clear off any excess glue. And I'm going to repeat this process for both the right and middle panels. So now that those are put onto my card base, I'm going to pull up all of the release paper from the back of my die cut frame here. And then I'm going to center it on that card base using those backgrounds to help me line it up. So once I have my red frame adhered down, I'm just really loving how this is coming out. I know it looks like a Christmas card, but it's a birthday card. I'll have to send it to someone who has a birthday in December. Now I'm going to start adhering down all of these little pieces. So I'm going to start with my branch that will be on the left side. I'm going to trim off some of the excess that I don't need on my card. And then I'm going to adhere this piece down to my card base. I'm using a combination of wet glue, and then I will also bring out those thin foam strips again. So while I'm gluing all this down, again, it's a combination of foam adhesives and wet glue. I wanted to just share a little bit about these crafty friends of mine. So Neha, I met through the Lawn Fawn Fans Hop that we do quarterly, and she also has a store of her own where she sells digital stamps and embellishments and a lot more, but those are the actual Crescent Creations are those digital stamps and embellishments. So I have quite a few embellishments from her shop, and as well as some digital stamps. I've done some work with some of her fall digital images for my Make and Take Club group that I have on Facebook, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this hop to celebrate her. And Debbie J, I met through Facebook groups to help YouTube creators, and she is so sweet and so encouraging. I love the time she takes to watch my videos and comment, and she also comments and posts in my Make and Take Club group. She's always so creative with all of her videos. I love that she does lives. I did a live with her last month, and it's always out of my comfort zone to do anything live. So I just am appreciative of her crafty and content creator friendship. She really is so encouraging. And both Neha and Debbie J are awesome crafters. So overall, I'm just so excited to be a part of this and to celebrate them and to wish them a happy birthday. So I really hope that if you are a subscriber of mine and haven't seen either of their channels, that you'll hop along today and not only find new crafters to subscribe to, but definitely subscribe to Neha and Debbie J's channels. Okay, so I'm wrapping up my card. Here is the last little piece that needs to get stuck onto my card. So I'm peeling up that release paper, and I'm also going to put a little bit of glue to tuck the edge of that branch in, so that way it looks like it's coming off from the side of the card. I'm using a little clip, as you saw throughout my gluing process, just to help add some pressure to spots that I can't really get to with my fingers. And now that that is dry, we need to add some embellishments, of course, especially from the Crescent Creations shop. I have these clay bit snowflakes in white. So I'm just using a jewel picker and I'm going to put a bunch throughout my card and then use some wet glue to glue those down. Here is a final look at my birthday card. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can find a list of all the supplies I used to create this card down in my description, as well as a link to the next person in the lineup. Make sure you leave those comments and thumbs up along the way, and consider subscribing if you enjoyed today's content. Thanks again for joining. Happy birthday, and I hope you have a wonderful day.